News Talk 610 AM and 102.1 FM. KBNU.
KBNU News Time is 4:03. I'm Bill Walter with this news update brought to you by U&I Furniture. The most devastating impacts of DUI crashes are the lives lost, families torn apart, and serious injuries. But a lawmaker pushing for tougher DUI penalties said the cost to offenders in Utah could go up 10 times or more. Representative Steve Eliason, a Republican from Sandy, noted that the average DUI right now costs about $10,000. Effectively, depending on who's killed in a crash caused by an intoxicated driver. If it's a parent with a young child or children, the penalties could be in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. Eliason has two bills that would increase DUI penalties, one to ensure a person with multiple DUI charges stays in jail longer, and another that calls for an intoxicated driver to pay restitution to victims' families. He said that could include child support until the son or daughter of a victim reaches 18, and the costs could go on even longer and even higher for a child with special needs. A measure to enhance penalties was held in a legislative committee Thursday to address technical concerns with the bill. KBNU News Time is 4:04. KBNU weather for tonight: cloudy skies, rain and snow likely this evening. Chance of snow and rain after midnight. Little or no accumulation expected. Overnight low tonight around 30. And then mostly cloudy, 40% chance of snow tomorrow, high in the upper 40s. Slight chance Saturday evening, and then partly cloudy to mostly sunny on Sunday. And the high temperature in the upper 30s. It's been to 39. It's 38 right now at KBNU. KBNU weather brought to you by the Duck Hunter. If you have that stuffy winter smell, give John at the Duck Hunter a call. Your air ducts could be holding on to dust and other surprises. Call 435-770-4813.
Oh, everybody needs a favorite chair to sit on. U&I Furniture has a big selection and sells so many chairs. Chairs for the living room, chairs to recline in, chairs for the dining room, lift chairs, occasional chairs, dining chairs, all kinds of chairs. And they even picked up more chairs with their last Furniture Market truckload, along with bedroom and dining sets, office furniture, TV consoles, even some with built-in fireplaces. So many good deals right now at U&I Furniture, and your tax return is coming soon. Use it on new furniture at the place where there's always a better buy. U&I Furniture, downtown Logan.
KBNU News Time is 4:05. The East Idaho man accused of killing his pregnant wife, their unborn child, and their 10-month-old son in December 2023 has filed a motion to have his grand jury indictment dismissed. Jeremy Best's attorney argues that the prosecutors only presented the jury with first-degree murder. Best's attorney argued that by not presenting second-degree murder as the case originally started, or manslaughter as an option, the jurors did not take the lack of premeditation and malice toward his family into account. The jurors also failed to take into account Best's mental health at the time. Best was detained by officers at a Swan Valley store where he was found confused and naked before being taken to the hospital in Idaho Falls to be evaluated before the murders occurred. Best's attorney stated that if the jury had done further investigating, under Idaho law, they would have found that before Best's mental health breakdown, he had a good relationship with his family. For these reasons, Best's attorney says the indictment should be dismissed and the grand jury reconvened to investigate second-degree murder and manslaughter as options. Best is expected to be back in court on March 14th for a status conference where the state will decide if they plan to seek the death penalty. And Box Elder County's jail has found a way to have their inmates give back to their community in an unusual way. Box Elder Sheriff's Lieutenant Alex Evans oversees the jail support services, and he said the inmates came to them and wanted to start crocheting. Evans said they started letting the inmates crochet in the fall of 2022. Since then, they have crocheted a lot of things, stuffed toys, blankets, scarves, and they got quite good at it. Some of their crochet goods were donated to New Hope Crisis Center. a nonprofit that provides advocacy for domestic violence and sexual assault. Other charities were also the recipient of the inmates' goods. Evans explained that they do not sell anything. All the items are donated to a charity. The inmates can send some of their goods to their family twice a year. The unusual program is paying dividends with the inmates as they are more manageable, according to deputies. Some of the inmates will be there for years, and it does help them pass the time. The lieutenant said crocheting is a challenge for them, and it can prepare them for life outside of prison. Crocheting has a lot of benefits, such as reducing anxiety and stress. It helps to relieve depression and is good for brain health. The jail has less than 100 inmates, and not all of them are involved in the crochet program. KBNU News Time is 4:09. For more details on these and other stories, visit CashValleyDaily.com.
Reporting the news that matters to you. News Talk KVNU, 610 AM, 102.1 FM, your number one radio station for news and talk.
Alpine Home Medical, we bring wellness home.
For the last 27 years, we've been honored to serve our community as the highest rated home medical supplier in Utah. Hi, I'm Jay Broadbent with Alpine Home Medical. Our commitment to exceptional customer service is at the heart of everything we do, and our team is always here to make sure you get the care and products you need. Whether it's oxygen solutions, CPAP supplies, or expert home safety advice, we do it all. As a Best in State winner for the last 14 years and highest rated on Google, Alpine Home Medical is not just a provider, we're a trusted partner in your healthcare journey. So swing by any of our 11 locations today and experience firsthand what makes Alpine Home Medical a 5-star experience. See us at alpinehomemedical.com.
Alpine Home Medical, we bring wellness home.
That's alpinehomemedical.com.
Do you see yourself traveling, working part-time, or moving somewhere warmer when you retire? Your Edward Jones financial advisor wants to help make your retirement goals a reality. They can help you figure out where you are today and how to get where you expect to be. Working together, you can plan for what you want and be ready to take on anything unexpected along the way. Call one of the 7 Edward Jones branch locations in Cache Valley or go to edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Hi, this is Gordon Deal. Monday on This Morning, America's First News. Working class voters, those without a college degree, make up the biggest voting bloc. Hear how both parties are failing them. Also, why more workers are taking health and wellness breaks. Surveys show we have at least one event in our lives that might require one. And once you file, tips on how to track your anticipated tax refund. Monday on This Morning, America's First News. Monday morning from 4 to 6 on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102 FM. Your station for news, weather, and sports.
For the people.
We are waiting with bated breath for news from the Cache Republican Party meeting an executive committee tonight.
With Jason Williams.
And I'm really excited about this next segment. We have 2 guests here in studio. We're going to talk about something that we've talked about many times here on the show, but from a bit of a different angle.
Weekday afternoons from 4 till 6 on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102 FM.
Welcome to KVNU's For the People. It is Friday, February 2nd. I'm Jason Williams. Bill Walter here in the studio as well. I tried to clear my throat before the show started, Bill, and now it's just worse. Let me take a quick sip of water.
Okay.
We have a lot to get to today.
It probably, I don't think, would be allergies, would it? Because doesn't the rain tend to stamp down
I think
allergies?
The problem with having like the hay fever reaction to our poor air quality days is that it takes a couple of days of decent air before it starts to really fade. But
Well, we didn't have decent air earlier today. Even with the rain, air was still yucky.
You can smell it. It smells like motor oil sometimes.
And Teen Spirit.
Yeah, motor oil and Teen Spirit. Yeah, it is.
Although
so
right now, looks like we're in the green from what
it should have.
Department of Environmental Quality is telling us.
Had enough air movement today. It should have cleaned most of it out to other places. So you're welcome, other places. We just shared a bunch of pollution with you.
Or just pushed it down onto the ground.
In our defense, that pollution was shoved on us, a lot of it at least from the Wasatch Front and all those cars. But, if you're experiencing sinus issues, it is likely air quality related. So enjoy, I guess. Visibility pretty low at the south end of the valley. Most of the day, actually, but a little worse this afternoon. The UDOT is actually warning drivers about this as you come out of Sardine Canyon into Cache Valley. That bank of fog that's just been hanging out at the south end of the valley apparently is reducing visibility. I drove through it earlier today, and it's pretty thick. It's just been kind of sitting there all day long. But apparently as you drop down out of the canyon, you hit that bank of fog, and visibility drops down immediately to 100 yards. And so a little warning there for those who may be listening and headed back into the valley soon. Just be prepared for that, especially as the sun goes down and temperatures go down as well. If that fog hangs out, we could see some temperatures low enough to create some icy road conditions, freezing that fog onto the roadways this evening. No one really knows because the fog wasn't part of the general forecast, but here it is, and it's a pretty thick bank. So careful out there, and remember, I know we get lulled into a little bit of comfiness with these warmer days that often come in January, and usually February, but it was January and February this year. And it gets us in kind of more of a spring mindset. You stop being as cautious as we are in the wintertime on those roads. But just a reminder that overnight temps over the next few days back in the kind of more the normal range in the 20s and things like that. So we will see, with all this moisture in the air and all the melting that's been happening, we could see some frozen fog hitting those roads and just frozen melt as general. So keep an eye out for those surprise patches of ice and slow it down.
What I'm seeing on the UDOT cameras right now, both canyons appear to be in pretty good shape.
Yeah, they said the canyon was fine. They said it's just as you drop down into Cache Valley, you hit that bank of fog there that's just sitting on the benches at the south end of the valley, and it's for about a half a mile, visibility is pretty reduced. So be careful. I drove through it on the other side of the valley on the way here today, and it is pretty thick. So coming up, this is a debate that I thought would play out differently. Utah is about to lose about $400 million in federal funding from various federal aid packages, some passed by Congress way back during the Trump administration, others during the Biden administration, and they've been propping up quite a bit here in Utah. And one of the things they have been propping up is our child care system. We are in what everyone from the lieutenant governor to legislative leaders to Voices for Utah Children and others who work with family policy here in the state in what can be called a child care crisis. And the crisis is there are more people in need of child care than child care options. We lost a lot of child care businesses and single individuals who provided child care at the start of the pandemic, and then a lot of them just didn't come back. We were already pretty thin on child care options. Utah Workforce Services analysts believe this is keeping hundreds of thousands of Utahns out of the workforce, people that want to work, people whose families maybe need the additional income, but they have no option but to have one of them stay at home rather than use even 4 hours of daycare in the afternoon for a part-time job. It's problematic. The problem is not going to be solved this year, legislative leadership has basically signaled. The $400 million gap that this federal funding that dries up this year leaves, lawmakers have already signaled they don't plan to fill. One lawmaker, though, has said, I've got an idea, something a bit out of the box. The bill itself, unveiled just today, is House Bill 167, State Child Care Amendments. Short version, this bill says we've got a lot of state-owned buildings, public resources with space and more. Could these be used for child care centers, child care options? Could businesses be incentivized to provide child care space for their employees or prospective future employees? And then a percentage of it would also be used for the general population. And in return, that business would get a kickback from the state. The bill unveiled today has made, well, quite a splash. Joining us in just a few minutes, Jenna Williams of Voices for Utah Children, a family-friendly policy advocacy group here in Utah, who has been covering this child care issue for years now. What they say about Senator Escamilla's bill and its prospects and the legislative session in general right after this.
Are you in need of excellent surgical care? Budge Clinic General Surgery offers the future of surgery with state-of-the-art robotic-assisted procedures. From cancer treatments to surgical needs, they've got you covered. Call Budge Clinic General Surgery today, 435-716-1950, to schedule a consultation and experience the best possible outcome. Trust Doctors Anderson, Marshall, McKenna, and Peterson, the experts at Budge Clinic General Surgery, helping people live the healthiest lives possible.
100 plus businesses, thousands of people, free parking, Main Street access. It's the Cache Valley Media Group Home and Garden Show presented by Anderson Seed and Garden at the Eccles Ice and Events Center, March 22nd and 23rd. If you are a home and garden business, from crafts to home building or excavation to emergency preparedness, this show is for you. Google Cache Valley Home and Garden Show or call 752-1390 for details.
Uh-oh, Brad's buzzed.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he's starting with the woots. And now a speech.
I just want to say that friendship is about heart and brain. Who's with me?
Good thing is, he knows when he's buzzed.
And my brain is saying, when it's time to go home, somebody call me a ride.
Love that guy.
Me too.
Know your buzzed warning signs? Call for a ride when it's time to go home. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. Legislative session wrapping up yet another week today with a lot of activity on the Hill. One issue, though, that I didn't expect to be the primary issue being discussed on the final day of this week, I'm glad is because it involves a pretty serious crisis Utah is facing. We've talked about it on the show before, but everyone from Lieutenant Governor Henderson to local leaders, school and parent organizations, workforce services analysts, everyone agrees Utah is in the midst of what can easily be called, accurately be called, a child care crisis. We lost a lot of child care options at the start of the pandemic, and not as many as we lost came back. This is keeping a lot of folks out of the workforce. It's hurting certain industries, especially retail and restaurant industries here in Utah who are having a hard time staffing and keeping up. It has closed businesses. It's a big deal. And it's about to get a little scarier as $400 million of federal funding that has been propping up Utah's child care system evaporates as that money runs out. Utah legislative leaders, surprising me and everyone else, have signaled they don't plan to do much about this in this legislative session. But one lawmaker said there are some things we can do, even if legislative leaders don't feel setting money aside for it is a worthwhile expense. Some things we can try. Senator Luz Escamilla unveiled as a Senate sponsor, unveiled House Bill 167 in immediate availability. And this is a very simple bill sponsored in the House by Representative Ashley Matthews, Senate sponsor Senator Escamilla. This bill simply says we've got a lot of spaces, both state-owned and public-owned spaces that we could maybe use as child care centers, but also we may be able as a state to incentivize businesses to set some space aside for child care for their own employees and prospective future employees who want to return to the workforce. And in exchange, they would keep a percentage of that space and capacity open for the general public there at their establishment. It's a really creative idea and one of the simplest, shortest bills I think I've seen this session. To break it down, what it might mean, and what the overall picture looks like, joining us right now from Voices for Utah Children, a family-friendly policy advocacy group here in Utah, policy analyst Jenna Williams. And Jenna, appreciate taking some time for KVNU today. This is, I'll say it again, this is a very short bill from Senator Escamilla and Rep. Matthews, but it could have huge ramifications, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is building off that issue we're having where there's a lot of unused state office space. And so instead of just leaving it vacant, why don't we repurpose it and do something meaningful with it and support the child care needs of the state? So we're really excited about it and excited to see child care being talked about. So thank you so much for having me.
I've been surprised, honestly, Jenna, that child care, considering what you see from analysts that work with all of you there at Voices for Utah Children, but even some data that's been released by the Department of Workforce Services, by the restaurant and hospitality industry here in Utah, so a mountain of evidence saying we are in the midst of a crisis here in Utah, and it's keeping a lot of people out of the workforce and hurting several industries. Do you have a sense of why at least leadership in the legislature right now doesn't feel that it's as urgent as it looks?
I think for so long, childcare has been considered to be a private family issue, and we all kind of came to this awakening during COVID that it's really an everyone issue. When we lost access to childcare programs and providers had to close down during COVID, we saw the impact just reverberate. Parents were struggling to work and had to be at home with their kids, and it was a complete mess. And so it really brought the issue, more to everyone's attention. And every year since then, we have just seen a growing conversation about it in the press. There's more bills than we've ever had about childcare. And it's just becoming an issue that, everyone, even if you don't have young children in need of care, can recognize it's something that's going to affect the economy and all of us.
For listeners, if you'd like to see some of the data I've referenced and more, visit the Voices for Utah Children website, utahchildren.org. Again, Voices for Utah Children is an advocacy organization. They work closely with lawmakers, with stakeholders, with parents and families to fight for family-friendly policy that's going to help families rather than hold them back. And this child care, honestly, is such a big part of doing that. This bill also would, if passed, would incentivize businesses to consider setting aside a child care center space at their private location, and in exchange for keeping a percentage of that capacity open for the public, they would get some incentives back from the state. That's a really creative idea.
Yeah, and so actually it's going to create a pilot program where it will bring together the state lending the office space for free and then paying for the retrofitting to create a child care program. And then they would bring the employer in that has employees with child care needs. And then they would bring in a child care provider to create the program and run the center. And so it's really this public-private tri-state solution that's really going to have everybody be a player in creating that solution.
The bill, again, House Bill 167, can be found at le.utah.gov. It's very short. It's worth a read. And it hopefully gets some discussion and traction and a healthy debate. State Child Care Amendments, the title. You can also search le.utah.gov, the legislative website, for just the keyword child care. See all of these things. Voices for Utah Children has a list as well of bills they're tracking and advocating or opposing this year. And it's been a busy session so far, right, Jenna? What else are all of you there at Voices for Utah Children paying attention to?
Yeah, absolutely. We're not even halfway through yet. Got a lot more time to go, but it's always interesting to watch. One of our main priorities right now is actually opposing one bill originally HB 153 was a child tax credit expansion bill, which we were really excited to support. However, there has been a substitute brought forth in an effort to, deal with the child care crisis, but not in a way that we think is actually productive. So it would increase the number of children that an unlicensed and unregulated provider could watch without having to have a background check or home inspection. So we are actively opposing that legislation and would like to see the legislature do more productive, positive investment in the sector of childcare rather than just looking at, increasing unlicensed care, which we can't track and is often unsafe for children.
I'm surprised by that. The legislature has learned a few lessons over the years about lowering the bar when it comes to many things. A couple of Netflix documentaries about that, unfortunately, focused on Utah. That's unfortunate to hear that bill has been swapped out. I didn't know that. A big question, and I know it's unfair to ask you as a representative of Voices for Utah Children. You have your specific task as a nonprofit organization trying to fight for families there during the legislative session. But if you can, give parents out there a bit of advice. If they want to get involved, if they like the idea of this bill from Senator Escamilla and Rep. Matthews on getting creative with child care centers and things like that, if they're opposed to a bill that would increase unlicensed childcare options instead of doing it the right way, what can they do? What's the best step for parents to get involved?
Absolutely. Just start by reaching out to your local legislator and telling them your childcare story. So many legislators up there, they don't know providers or parents using care. And if you can just share your experience, then it gives them someone that they know in their community that is directly impacted by childcare needs. And they will often look to you as an expert in the space just because of your experience. We also have Child Care Advocacy Day next Friday, and we're doing Child Care Lobby Days throughout the session. So if you go to the Voices website, you'll see all that information. But come on up and join us if you have the time, or, reach out to your legislators and just share your child care story.
It really is an important thing to do. We're lucky here in Utah because this may change one day, but right now lawmakers do listen, and you can impact a lawmaker's thinking with a single email or voicemail left respectfully. Information on how to do this, again, at the Voices for Utah Children website, utahchildren.org. You can also see their main issues, the bills they're tracking. Check out their legislative center. A lot of great information there on prospective state policy, past, future, and what we're debating right now in the present and more. It's a really useful resource for parents to engage with the legislative process and understand what lawmakers are thinking and doing on Capitol Hill during this 45-day session. Jenna Williams has been our guest again, policy analyst over early learning and care at the Voices for Utah Children nonprofit organization, utahchildren.org, their website. You can also find them on all the social media platforms, but a great way to get engaged if you're a parent, and it's important that parents do right now for a lot of different reasons, most that we've just covered here. Jenna, really appreciate you taking some time for KVNU today. I know you're busy on the Hill. There's still a lot going on, so we'll let you get back to it, but appreciate you taking some time for us.
Thanks so much for having me.
Our pleasure. And we'll do it again soon, maybe even a legislative wrap-up when it's all said and done.
For sure.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
You as well. Jenna Williams, policy analyst at Voices for Utah Children. If you're a parent, this is your organization. They are a nonprofit organization, and they serve as a voice for parents and families. Utah lawmakers label themselves as family-friendly, but you'd be surprised how often it seems that gets lost in the legislative cycle. So get involved. Share your story, as Jenna said, directly with your lawmaker. Get involved with Voices for Utah Children to help them do what they do. And definitely, at very least, track these bills and share your opinions. It's really an important thing to do. Voices for Utah Children can be found again at utahchildren.org, and we'll be back with more of For the People right after these headlines with KVNU's Bill Walter.
Thanks
Thank you, Jason. KBNU News Time is 4:32, and the news is brought to you by Roof Rescue. Federal wildlife officials have decided not to restore protections for gray wolves across portions of 6 states, allowing hunting to continue in Idaho, Montana, and Wyoming. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service officials announced today it has rejected petitions from environmental groups to return wolves in the northern Rockies to the federal endangered species list. The agency also said it will craft a first-ever national recovery plan for wolves. A federal judge in 2022 restored protections for wolves across most of the U.S. outside the northern Rockies after the Trump administration removed them. The names of 3 Idaho men killed when an airport hangar under construction in Boise collapsed were released by the Ada County coroner today. 24-year-old Mariano Oak and 32-year-old Mario Sante Z, both of Nampa, were pronounced dead at the scene, along with 59-year-old Craig Durant of Boise. Fire Department Operations Chief Aaron Hummel says 9 other people were hurt in the Wednesday evening collapse, including 5 who were taken to area hospitals with critical injuries. Officials have not released the names or the current condition of the injured victims. The hangar is privately owned by a charter flight company and was being built at the Boise airport. And the uncertain future of the Arizona Coyotes is a hot topic at NHL All-Star Weekend. They're playing their second season in a 5,000-seat arena on Arizona State's campus in Tempe. Players Association head Marty Walsh continues to express concern as multiple deadlines have come and gone. Walsh said that he would encourage the team to move if there's no plan for where the team will play beyond this season. Commissioner Gary Bettman said he was hopeful and reasonably confident Coyotes owner Alex Morello will get something done to keep the team in the Phoenix area. But the Coyotes' instability comes amid significant interest from the owners of the Utah Jazz to put an NHL team in Salt Lake City. Bettman said Ryan Smith and his group are very enthused about the possibility. KBNU News Time is 4:34.
Roof Rescue is your local roofing specialist, dedicated to keeping your home safe and dry no matter the weather. Their team of experienced roofers is here to serve you, providing top-quality service at affordable prices. From minor repairs to complete roof replacements, they've got you covered. Remember, your roof is your first line of defense in protecting your family from the elements. So don't wait until the next storm to discover your roof problems. Call Roof Rescue today at 435-999-4268. They're your trusted local roofing experts, here to keep your home safe and dry. Roof Rescue, celebrating 10 years of providing watertight peace of mind.
This is a special report from ABC News. The U.S. strikes back. I'm Chuck Sievertson. U.S. forces have begun retaliatory air attacks against Iran-backed militant groups in Iraq and Syria. The attacks began tonight but will not end tonight, says White House National Security Council spokesman John Kirby. He says the Pentagon's in the early stages of damage assessment, but they believe that the strikes were successful. ABC News White House correspondent Selena Wang.
We are hearing that there are some officials in the administration that this larger scale attack could still lead to that broader conflict, exactly what the president has been trying to avoid. And the other complicating factor here is that amid all of this, there are still these ongoing hostage negotiations to release those hostages in Gaza. There are concerns that the U.S. response could derail those negotiations.
Initial indications are that U.S. forces hit exactly what they meant to hit, ammunition and logistics locations, says Lieutenant General Douglas Sims of the U.S. Joint Chiefs of Staff. This is ABC News.
And KBNU weather for tonight: cloudy, rain and snow likely this evening. Chance of snow and rain after midnight. Little or no accumulation, low around 30. Cloudy, 40% chance of snow on Saturday, upper 30s for the high. Slight chance of snow Saturday evening. Then partly cloudy Sunday morning, and then mostly sunny skies and the high temperature in the upper 30s. It's been to 39. It's 36 right now at KBNU. Download the Chevron app and enjoy Chevron rewards. Then you can save $1 per gallon on your next 3 visits. Visit any Cache Valley Chevron station for details. You can always get more news at CacheValleyDaily.com. Let's check Wall Street now with Edward Jones.
This is Senior Branch Office Administrator Monique Benson bringing you the Daily Financial Market Report on behalf of Financial Advisor Daryl Arnell. and Edward Jones. Equities closed higher on Friday as the U.S. jobs report surprised to the upside. The total non-farm jobs added for January were 353,000, well above expectations for the 185,000 new jobs. The technology-heavy NASDAQ continued to outperform, up over 1.7% on Friday, driven by strong earnings from mega-cap technology names including Meta and Amazon. The Dow closed up 135 points at 38,654. The Nasdaq closed up 267 points at 15,629, and the S&P 500 closed up 52 points at 4,959. In the bond markets, the 10-year Treasury yield are trading at 4.03%. In stocks of local interest, Home Depot was down $2.84 to $357.26. Lowe's Companies was down 74 cents to $219.49. Nucor was down $2.23 to $183.39. Thermo Fisher was down 41 cents to $551.82, and Northrop Grumman was up 36 cents to $446.58. In the commodity markets, the price of crude oil was down $1.68 to $72.14, and the spot price of gold was down $17.40 to $2,053.70. This has been today's financial market report, brought to you on behalf of Edward Jones, member SIPC, and financial advisor Daryl Arnell, serving individual investors with personalized attention and financial advice. If you would like additional information, please contact our branch office at 435-713-6925. Thank you.
Monday edition, Clay Travis, Buck Sexton Show. Exactly 9 months until Election Day. We'll break down the absolute latest, plus Buck we'll dive into.
Our friend Bridge Colby will be on the scene with us to talk about the China-Taiwan situation, U.S.-China policy, a big part of the 2024 election. Could the big fight come in this year between China and Taiwan? We'll talk about it on Clay and Buck.
10 to 1 on News Talk KVNU, 102 FM and 610 AM.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. I'm a doofus sometimes.
But you're a nice doofus, though. You're not a mean doofus. That's
well, and I'm not criticizing Jenna Williams from Voices for Utah Children for not correcting me, but through that entire interview we just did, I referenced the wrong bill number. So I'm just going to I'm going to throw it out. Luckily, I told people go search child care. That's right. It's I did get so we talked about the right bill and the right sponsors, but it was House Bill 157 last year. This year, it's Senate Bill 176. Same sponsor.
So it's House Bill last year and Senate Bill.
Yeah. So basically it's the same bill. Last year it started in the House and worked its way to the Senate. This year they're trying it the opposite way and see if they have better luck. It starts in the Senate, works its way to the House.
Okay.
Yeah. So last year, by the way, it did pass the House and 2 readings in the Senate, died on the 3rd reading. So this year I guess they're going to try and work their way through the Senate first. To address whatever concerns led to its failure last year. But again, a really simple bill. I mean, the bill itself is simple, but the process isn't going to be. The bill basically says we're in a child care crisis. Legislative leaders have signaled they don't plan to really do anything about the $400 million in federal funds that have been propping up our child care system for 3 years now. That's going away this year. The money's gone. And Utah then faces a even more child care desert, or a growing child care desert at that point. Legislative leaders, I think, are willing to sit back and see what happens for another year, is my guess where they're coming from. Anyway, Senator Escamilla said, all right, here's something that would, instead of, so Voices for Utah Children would like to see them do more to try and fill that $400 million gap. There's obviously that need out there, and there's obviously a child care crisis, and we know roughly how many hundreds of thousands of Utahns it's keeping out of the workforce. It's really hurt the restaurant and hospitality industry and the retail industry, who are still dealing with what, I don't think this is ever the good name for it, but they're calling it an employment shortage, which means unemployment is too low nationwide. And so certain industries, people are getting picky, and certain industries are having a hard time keeping their positions filled. And some retail and hospitality are two that have been hit the hardest. Manufacturing a bit too, in some areas at least. So it's a national thing, and low unemployment nationally is good. A healthy economy nationally that we have right now is good. It's not complaining about these things, but it does present a unique challenge in that you have all these people who want to go back into the workforce in certain industries that are feeling understaffed. We've lost businesses to underemployment. We've had restaurants and retail shops throughout Utah that have had to close, not because they couldn't sell anything, because they couldn't make money selling it, a service or a good or food, but because they couldn't keep staffed to run the business. I'm not exaggerating, and this has happened. So that's where Voices for Utah Children is coming from. They're saying, look, here's this economic issue that's closing small businesses, and here's this family issue, which is our stomping ground as an advocacy group, and they're meeting. And a solution to this is to get more child care options out there. So that brings us to where we're at. And again, this bill basically says we've got a lot of the state owns a lot of buildings, and a lot of them are either partly in use or currently not in use. The state sits on these not to waste taxpayer money, but because they will be used in the future. Maybe they're only in a temporary state of not being occupied, throughout the full day. Maybe they're a building that's being phased out, but demolition hasn't happened, but it's only being demolished because something else is going to be there. It's not a dangerous building. These are spaces where child care centers could operate. Licensed, background-checked child care operations could be housed, and the state could incentivize them being there. But the bill also, and this is the part I really like the most, the bill also says, look, many businesses have a space that they could turn into a child care center. Now, obviously, most businesses don't have someone on staff licensed and trained to effectively and safely run a child care center, but they have the space they could offer up. And so what if the state said to businesses, you open up some space at your facility for a child care center, we'll connect you with a licensed child care provider, either a company or an individual that the state is licensed to provide child care and operate a center, and you donate the space to that. You do it mainly for your employees, but you reserve a percentage of the capacity for the general public, so that people nearby who live nearby can bring their kids to the child care center at your business, as well as your employees can do. And the state will give you a kickback, tax break, whatever it might be. It's a really creative idea. And in theory, other than getting the pilot program, as Jenna described, up and running, we're talking, I mean, it's still a lot of money, but instead of $400 million gap that we're facing and trying to find a way to fill that, you're talking about running this pilot program for Senator Escamilla says somewhere between $3 and $5 million to run this pilot program and see if it makes a difference. Run it for a year, a couple of years. I don't know how long. The bill kind of leaves that open for legislators to fill in as they debate it, as many bills like this do. But it's a creative idea. I hope it gets some traction. I'm surprised that lawmakers have been not flippant, but obviously disinterested in dealing with this one this year. Giving them the benefit of the doubt, I'm guessing that they feel like waiting a year to see what happens. They know the $400 million in federal money that has been propping up Utah's child care system is going away. They're not waiting to see if that changes. They know that's going to happen. But as that aid from the federal government ends, they might be waiting to see just how bad it gets over the next year before crafting a broader solution. And maybe there's some smarts to that. Personally, this is the cynical take, the not giving them the benefit of the doubt take, and where I'm personally at based on some of their behavior so far this session. I'm afraid that we're not doing this because it's an election year. And so we're punting child care solutions that the state can at least grease the wheels to providing to families out there. I'm afraid that they're kicking that down the road a year because so many of them are up for re-election this year, and they're trying to keep the budget as small as possible, or at least keep the growth in the budget as small as possible so that they can say, we trimmed spending. But this is an unfortunate one to trim because the reality is you have families out there who are in need of dual incomes but don't have them. You've got people that are in professions, including medical professions, where Utah's also facing a shortage in many parts of the state, who aren't working because one of the spouses is at home with the kids because childcare is not an option in their area. For many families, childcare, even when it is an option, it's unaffordable for them. It's not something they can factor into their budget. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this one goes. But I like this out of the box idea from Luz Escamilla, and I hope it gets a debate. And I don't really see, other than a small in contrast to the overall budget cost to taxpayers, I don't see a cost to running the experiment and seeing where it goes. It should be kind of interesting, to say the least. But we'll see where it all plays out in the end. If you have thoughts on this, if you want to read the bill, if you want to download the bill, 753-5868 to call in. Visit le.utah.gov and simply search for childcare to find the bill. That's an easy way to grab it. That, again, is le.utah.gov. And the bill name, correct bill number, Senate Bill 176, Child Care Service Amendments. We'll be back right after this.
It's winter, and the last thing you're thinking about is yard work. But did you know now is actually the best time to trim your trees? Hey, it's Chelsea with Whole Tree Care, and I'm not suggesting you get out there and do it. Call us. Our guys climb trees year-round. And now that leaves are gone, visibility is perfect for trimming. Plus, your trees are dormant, so it's less stressful on your trees. Call 760-6587. If you have any overgrown trees, call before heavy snow causes damage. Whole Tree Care. That's HULL Tree Care. 760-6587.
The Above and Beyond Salute.
Hello? Chemicoalis, this is Will Feelright. The reason I'm calling is someone has nominated you for our Above and Beyond Salute. How many years have you been a school crossing guard with the Logan City Police Department?
16 years.
Have you ever thought back, how many thousands of kids have you helped to protect?
Funny, I'll go places uptown and I'll have kids say, aren't you the crossing guard? You crossed me when I was in school, and they're like in their 20s now.
Thank you so much for what you do.
No problem.
The Above and Beyond Salute, sponsored by Firehouse Subs on News Talk KVNU.
Vicky, how you doing? How's the knee?
It's coming along, doctor, but still some soreness.
Well, let's see. This soon after surgery, some pain is pretty normal.
I was hoping to get more painkillers. The first round worked great.
We're being very careful with those now. Prescription painkillers are opioids, same as heroin. It's easy to start taking them, not so easy to stop.
Last year in America, an average of 40 people died from opioid abuse every day. Long-term addiction has become America's newest health epidemic.
So no pills?
Vicky, you're doing great. So let's try these anti-inflammatories, plus your physical therapy. If the soreness doesn't continue to get better, give me a call.
For opioids, the smaller the dose prescribed and taken, the better. Because even a few prescription painkillers can sometimes go a long, wrong way. A message from the American Academy of Orthopedic Surgeons and the Orthopedic Trauma Association. Visit orthoinfo.org/prescription safety.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. For the People movie show coming up here in just a bit. One new film in theaters, and unfortunately, despite the excitement the trailer generated, the audience response and reaction so far has been not hugely positive. But Argyle is in films. I'm also disappointed to find out the cat isn't the main character. The teaser trailer implied that, but Argyle is in theaters. Also new in theaters here in Logan this weekend, The Jungle Bunch, Operation Meltdown. I don't know a thing about this, to be honest with you, but it is an animated feature, and it doesn't have, that I can see, a big studio name attached to it, so it's maybe a little bit more of a smaller production, but or any names that I recognize. But The Jungle Bunch, if you're looking for something for the kids. Migration is also still playing, at least in one of the theaters here. And then part of Megaplex bringing the Oscar nominees to Cache Valley, to Utah in general, so you can get a feel for it. They have The Holdovers back in theaters. That's also streaming on a couple of services, I don't remember which, and is available for rental on Amazon and iTunes, or Apple TV, sorry. And then in theaters, you can see The Holdovers and another film called Zone of Interest, or The Zone of Interest. The plot of this is a foreign film subtitled The Commandant of Auschwitz, Rudolf Haas, and his wife Hedwig strive to build a dream life for their family in a house and garden next to the camp. This is an Oscar nominee, and what I've heard is it's kind of absurd, but at the same time, something will make you think. So that is in theaters here in Logan as well, if you'd like to see something a little off the beaten path from what you normally have access to. So as far as the legislative session goes, it's going to be a quiet remainder of the day. They're working until about 6 o'clock, I've been told. So probably no fireworks on that front. But last night, Cache Valley lawmakers, did host their weekly town hall. This is done via the Cache GOP YouTube stream. And that town hall is up on the Cache Republican Party YouTube page. I've linked to it on our own Facebook page as well. And lawmakers last night discussed mostly their bills and where their bills are going. Representative Mike Peterson, again, doesn't have a lot this year, and that got a little awkward last night as he was trying to spend time on the same bill that he'd already discussed. But it's just been a strange session so far for Representative Peterson. I'm not sure what is up there. I've had a lot of people ask me. He does still only have the one bill that as I understand it, is also DOA. They haven't announced that officially, but it's a bill. It's a bill mill bill. It's running. The same bill is running in 17 states right now, and it's a bill that would mandate a poster of the Ten Commandments at schools. And then other than that, he just has two bills in process, which means they're not actually out there yet. They're being written still. So yeah, I'm not sure what's going on there. Folks that have asked, we'll reach out and see if we can get Representative Peterson here on the show. They're pretty busy during the session. Even a lawmaker that doesn't have any bills. Well, I mean, that doesn't usually happen. So I don't know what happens when someone doesn't have bills to run, like Rep. Peterson. But even despite the work they're putting into their own bills, there is a lot of that they still have to work on, working with other lawmakers, being floor sponsors of bills from the other chamber, things like that. So we'll see if we can get Representative Peterson to talk about the status of his other bills where he only has that one on his docket right now that legislative leadership has kind of signaled is going to die in the Rules Committee. They don't want to open that can of worms, which I agree with them. This is happening in a couple of states right now. I've talked about this before, but I personally have no problem with a bill here in Utah that says put a poster of the Ten Commandments on the wall at the schools. It doesn't say every classroom, it just says at the school. I don't have a problem with that. But where it does get problematic is that because of the United States Constitution, you open a can of worms. Because once you put that poster up and mandate it in statute, someone sues and says, well, if you're going to allow that one, you've got to allow them all. And the group that usually sues is called the Church of Satan. They have made it known that they are not religious people. They don't believe in Satan. They're atheists. They called it the Church of Satan to be sensational and to get attention. But their entire goal is to go around the country and prove points through litigation. And they were successful at actually getting a Church of Satan statue placed inside the Oklahoma state capitol because they had put a Ten Commandments statue in the Oklahoma state capitol. Church of Satan took the church to court, or the state to court, and said, if you're going to allow that, you got to allow us. And the court said, well, United States Constitution is pretty clear on that, so yeah. And so they put their statue up there. And so my take is just don't open this can of worms. It's not worth it. But we'll see. Legislative leadership has placed Rep. Peterson's only bill this session in the Rules Committee, and it's still sitting there, which is usually, there's still another week to go. It might move, but usually when a bill sits in Rules Committee for this long, it's legislative leadership saying, yeah, we're not talking about that bill this year. So we'll see. As far as other Cache Valley lawmakers go, 5-6 bills each. They discussed them all last night in the town hall. We'll have some highlights for you on Monday's show. And then we'll also kind of dig into the future of the legislative session from Cache Valley lawmakers' perspective. That's coming up Monday at 4. I'm reaching out to them this weekend, and they've all promised to send me predictions for the Super Bowl, for the Oscars, and the legislative session. Should be fun to run through. The For the People movie show with Andy Morgan is next here on KVNU Logan.